Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Книга Кришна, Верховная Личность Бога.
Krishna book,
Глава 30.
chapter
Кришна
30.
прячется от Гопи.
Krishna is hiding from Gopis.
Когда Шрила Прабхупада приехал на Запад и начал
When Prabhupada came to the West and started to preach,
он объяснял, что
he was explaining
знания,
that
то есть западные люди
there is a difference in
не имели
consciousness.
представления о ведическом знании,
The Western people had no idea of the Vedic knowledge.
ведической культуре. Но вот
They knew
понятие
some
ведическое
kind
знание,
of sort of things of Indian culture, Vedic culture,
Прабхупада объяснял, что
but it was not
ведическое
presented scientifically. And
виды
Prabhupada
знания,
was
уровни
explaining
знаний.
that there
Можно
are some
считать
levels of knowledge.
5, классифицируют по-разному.
They could be classified
Это
differently,
знание
like
чувственного
3 or 5.
восприятия. Можем получить знание на опыте чувств.
There is a knowledge that comes from our
Обычно
feelings.
это что-то приятное, неприятное.
Something is
приемлемо,
pleasant,
отлично,
something
нет,
is
это простые
unpleasant
вещи.
to us.
Этот опыт чувств, он двойственный.
This experience of
Счастье,
feelings
несчастье.
is
Обычный
in
опыт жизни
duality.
чувств.
Happiness, distress,
Поэтому какие-то вещи
it is
человек будет
based
принимать,
on
какие-то
our
отвергать.
experience, life experience. And some
разные
things we
чувства.
reject, some
И
things
это
we
будет вечно
accept,
продолжаться, принятие, отвержение,
and
принятие,
gonna
отвержение. Это вот очень низкая
be
платформа.
on and on and on.
Знание, где чередуется счастье и несчастье постоянно.
This knowledge about
И
happiness and distress,
сопровождается всегда неудовлетворением.
and
И поиском новых
one would
знаний,
always
новых
be unsatisfied
открытий
inside
для чувств.
with this, following this path.
Другое знание выше, когда мы опираемся
Another
на
knowledge that is
опыт,
higher than
знания,
previous one,
накопленные уже людьми.
it's the knowledge that
То есть мы
when we
просто
base on
принимаем
our experience,
историю,
we
допустим,
just accept
книги,
whatever story we
слушаем
get,
лекции,
reading from
ученых
books,
историков,
listening from scholars,
хроники, толкования событий прошлого. Есть уже готовые науки,
Histor-
которые мы просто
historical-
воспринимаем в университетах.
history lessons.
Это знания более высокого уровня,
This is
можно получить больший объем.
this
понимания
knowledge is
вещей.
more elevated.
Есть знание, которое выше этого,
There is a knowledge that
доступно опыту
is even
обычного,
higher than this,
обычного человеческого общества или какой-то отдельной
that is
личности.
not
Оно дается через
for
Писание.
all people. It comes through the
Даже
scriptures.
великие ученые, исследователи, опираясь на
Even
опыт прошлых
Learned
исследований, не
scholars,
могут точно сказать, как устроена Вселенная.
right in there's
И это только в Писаниях можно найти информацию об этом. То есть вещи запредельны нашему
they
опыту.
they cannot even
Они
make
еще не трансцендентные.
there's works based on the scriptures.
И даже в материальном мире мы не можем
It is
знать, опираясь на
Still a
опыт всё.
material knowledge,
То есть тут
but
нужны Писания.
no transcendental that they have.
И еще выше это знание,
So we
полученное
need
от
scriptures.
авторитетов, которые
And
уже обладают
The
трансцендентным
highest
знанием.
knowledge comes
Даже в
from
ведах очень
authorities
трудно обнаружить.
that
То
are
есть
hard
люди,
to find
находящиеся
even
в
reading Vedas.
духовном сознании, в неком как трансе,
You have to
видят
be in
сознание,
certain
как Кришна
sort of
дышит.
trance to
От них можно
see
получить
Krishna,
знания, превосходящее даже обычное вот это опытное,
and you can
неопытное
get this knowledge coming from
знание,
them.
неопытного и опытного материального знания.
This is beyond life
Трансцендентное, то
experience
есть нельзя это
knowledge,
получить при помощи
beyond
мыслительных рассуждений или чувственного
feelings,
восприятия, или накопившихся
perception,
традиционных опытов наук. Только из
Beyond
сердца того, кто обрел это знание. Авторитет, значит. Сам
mundane.
Брахмана, слушать нужно его. И высший уровень, когда знание, то, которое может
Mundane
только
knowledge.
сам Бог нам сказать.
And
Никто
the
не
topmost knowledge comes from the Lord Himself.
Здесь даже если человек имеет духовного
Here,
учителя,
even though you have a spiritual master,
может и не получить это
you
знание,
might not get this
если Кришна не прольет на него
knowledge
милость.
unless
Сам
there is a mercy from Krishna
Гуру указывает ему
himself.
направление, занимает его преданным
Guru,
служением для
his
того,
guru
чтобы
is
Кришна обратил
pointing
на него
him
внимание,
into
привил
a
ему
certain
милость. Тогда
direction.
ученик
He has to
получает
go,
знание о личности Бога. То есть
and
непосредственно от Кришны.
that way he
Поэтому говорится, что
proceeds
гуру не
towards
отличен в этом
God,
смысле
and
от
he
Кришны.
might get this
Потому что
mercy from
непосредственно
him
как
to
бы
learn
Кришна, и
about
Кришна
him.
по милости гуру
Krishna, by
снисходит,
the
да,
mercy
и
of Guru,
открывает себя тому истинному
comes
ученику, который
to
следует
the
наставлению
one
гуру и
sincere
как бы удостаивается этой
student
милости.
who is
Это высшая категория.
decent enough.
И вот то, что мы сегодня читаем, продолжаем читать.
So we'll continue to
10-я
read
песня Шримад Бхагаватам,
from
то есть книга о
30th
Кришне.
chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam today,
Понять ее без милости Кришны практически
and
невозможно.
it is impossible,
Читаем, то есть
almost
опасные.
impossible to understand this chapter without the mercy of
Для
Krishna.
людей неискренних это усилит
For
вожделение, отправит их в ад.
unsensire
Для людей
hearts,
искренних
this thing,
дает полное
this chapter
освобождение
might
от
bring him to
вожделения,
hell,
освобождения.
and the sincere hearts
То
might
есть
be
это по милости Кришны.
freed from lust
И
and
эту
desire
10-ю
by
песню
mercy
Прабхупада
of
пересказал,
Krishna.
вот эта книга отдельная существует.
This chapter,
нет
this
такой шастры, вот
actually this Krishna
отдельной,
book
но
was
сделал Прабхупада отдельную
retold.
шастру из нее.
It was never existed before Srila Prabhupada,
просто,
and Srila Prabhupada
перевел
retold the
стихи из
10th
этой
chapter
песни
from
Бхагаватам на наше
10th
усмотрение. Вот опасно это делать. А он
canto
пересказал,
Srimad Bhagavatam.
объяснил все, каждый момент важный для
He gave all
нашего
his
как бы, опыта и
commentaries like
сознания современного человека.
he's retelling.
Потому
the
что
story.
в современном мире любовь
Modern
понимается только между
world,
мужчиной и женщиной.
There is love in the
В любом
modern
случае люди не
world
понимают, что это такое.
that is
Просто
only
не
between
понимают, слова даже
sexes,
такого нет.
between man
В
and woman.
санскрите есть разница.
But
Когда мы изучаем
there is
такие темы,
there are
там
different
есть
words
кама,
for love in Sanskrit.
према.
Like there's kama and prema, and you cannot compare these two terms.
Теоретически сравните.
Even
можете
in
попасть.
theory, you can fall
Если в уме
if
даже
you
начнете
try
сравнивать
to
вещи, можете
compare it.
То есть
If you
это
compare
тема
it in your
запретна для тех,
mind, you
кто
might
мыслит
fall.
как бы вот еще такими категориями.
So there are some
Половыми
topics that
категориями
are
признаков.
banned, and there
Здесь
is no.
описывается
If you're
отношение
still
Бога
on
и
that
Кришны.
level, sexual
В контексте, вот это 30 глава.
level of thinking,
Мы прочитали уже пролог,
then there would be a
танца
problem
раса,
for you.
вот
So
это
we
9 глава,
we've started it
где как раз объясняется
with
разница
reading the
между
prologue,
любовью и вожделением.
29th chapter, where
И вожделение — это та
there
ценность,
is
которая в этом мире вот держит всех.
a description.
Никто не может
What
выйти
was the
за
difference
рамки вот
between
этого
love
вожделения,
and
что-то более
lust?
ценное. При всех усилиях мы не можем.
So with all our
Кришна говорит в Бхагавад-гите Арджуна.
intentions, we
Эта
cannot
сила
go
всего
beyond
на самом деле.
this.
Именно она
Krishna
разрушает
was telling Arjuna that
все духовное в человеке.
your problem is lust inside of you. That's what is
И вот
controlling
это
you.
Бхагавад-гите говорит, всепожирающий враг души.
This is
вожделение.
an enemy,
Люди ценят
of
воспевают
the soul.
вожделение в стихах и прочее, прочее, прочее.
and people are all writing
Да,
hymns
не
and
нужно много даже
poems
говорить, мы сами видим, что сейчас
to
происходит
there's
в
lust.
искусстве, в мире.
And we
Мир
can
сошел с
see in
ума
the
в
modern
этом
world
плане.
there is so much of craziness going on
Как
right
только
now.
порнография стала доступна в интернете,
Pornography in the
сразу миллионы
internet,
людей
and
попали в эту область.
millions
И
of
не могут
people
выйти.
are enjailed by
Не
their
способны.
lust.
Это кама.
They cannot overcome. This is
Никто из
karma.
них предали, как Прабхупада
Nobody
говорит.
really
Хиппи,
can
хиппи, они
go over.
отказались от всего,
Srila
они
Prabhupada
купили
was saying like
развлечения, они
they
жили
were
кто-то на
hippies,
деревьях,
they
кто-то
rejected
в
everything.
подвалах.
Some lived on the trees, some
Они
lived
отказались
in
от
the
семьи, от
basements.
ценностей, от
They-
работы, от
they w-
организации, от покровительства
They
старших, там, от
flew,
чего угодно.
they
Они
got out
хотели
of
жить
their
свободно,
jobs and
но они не
families,
смогли
and
отказаться от
they
вожделения.
wanted to be free, but they could not
Никто не может
get
отказаться.
free from lust.
На милость Кришны.
Nobody can,
И поэтому
unless
человек
there is
это
mercy of
нужно
Krishna.
изучать.
So we need to go
Вот это что ж такое
through
милость
it, we need
Кришны?
to
Вот когда он
study
танцует
it.
раса-лилу здесь,
What
здесь,
is
в материальном
Krishna?
мире, вот
What is
область,
Krishna's
да,
Rasa Lila
Вриндаване,
dance?
это просто
When he's
проявление его
dancing there
особой
in
милости
Vrindavan, this
для
is
преданных,
the
которые готовы уже искренне покинуть
manifestation of his mercy for those who are ready to escape this material world. This is the last point. If we get beyond this mystery of rasa dance, we'll be free. Janma karma chame divyam. If someone would understand my appearance and disappearance in this world, he will never be born again to this world. So Gopis came to Krishna, hearing the sound of his flute in the middle of the night. They abandoned their families, their relatives, suddenly hearing the sound of the flute. In the full moon night, it was autumn time, and there were some descriptions of this picturesque night, the blooming trees and everything, and Gopis could not overcome this sound of his flute. So it was compared to the lust, as if they were very lusty, but they couldn't overcome this. It was even higher in power than this lust, and somehow a person can overcome the lust for some time just because of he's scared of the Lord, etc., etc. But they went there fearing not whatever consequences might go. They didn't worry about his relatives or anything else. So it was in the previous chapter. So Krishna is sitting there in the forest behind the tree, and he's greeting them, and he started with giving him some morality lessons, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And at this time of the day, you're beautiful, pretty girls, and it's nighttime, and you're here. What relatives told you about this? What about your dharma? So he started to preach them, and they said, probably he said, like, probably you came to watch the moon and the beauty of the forest. Well, you've seen it all, so you just need to go back. It's pretty scary at this time in the forest. Well, there are a lot of wild animals, but I know that you're attached to me. But still, you can just be at home and do some Mangalarati and just chant japa or doing things like that. That way you'll be devoted to me. And Gopis were rejecting everything Krishna was saying, and they got into conflict with him. Like, they were saying fearlessly, answering Krishna, that Krishna, you must not talk to us like this. So they started to argue, and they were really upset about this cold meeting. When Uddhava came to Vrindavan with the message of Krishna, with the message from Krishna, and he was asked a question by Gopis that he could not answer. He is a personal friend and secretary of Krishna. But he was lost finding the answer for the Gopis' question. He didn't have any idea of this kind of relationship. There are two types of love. There is love that is after gain. Someone came and had dinner at your house and he's leaving. Your worker, he is working and praising you, but as long as he gets his salary, he leaves. A student who attends the university, he respects his teacher, but as long as he got his diploma, he leaves. A man who is going from one woman to another one, it's understood that there is always some gain. But this love is not like that. And Gopis were asking Uddhava, they were like, Uddhava, please tell us why this love that we have stopped. What Krishna stopped. And Uddhava, he was numb, absolutely numb. He was like, I don't know. It was not supposed to happen. This is Lila. And you need to understand Krishna to get into that idea. Everybody is criticizing Krishna. Ask the Lord, who was doing things like this? What he did to Pandavas? What he did to Gopis? He left Gopis. And Gopis are saying, like, if you want to live the comfort life, you should never go to the bank of Yamuna river. So that was a prologue to the rasa dance, and Krishna is trying to push them back home. They're arguing him in this manner. In the end, Krishna is he's saying, okay, there are no more obstacles between them. And the thing that Gopis were willing to get the most, they started to do. They started to walk around the bank of Yamuna, and there is no comma. 8 years old, it was for all them. So they took this walk about Vrindavan, and they forgot about everything in this world, just by taking a walk with Krishna. And they started to think, oh, we're so happy, and Krishna is so close to us. And when Gopis started to feel proud of themselves, Krishna is leaving them. He is disappearing. So this chapter is called Krishna hiding from Gopis. When Krishna suddenly disappeared from the company of the Gopis, they began to search for him everywhere. After not finding him anywhere, they became afraid and almost mad after him. They were simply thinking of the pastimes of Krishna in great love and affection. Being absorbed in thought of him, they experienced loss of memory, and with dampened eyes they began to see the very pastimes of Krishna, his beautiful talks with them, his embracing, kissing, and other activities. Being so attracted to Krishna, they imitated his dancing, his walking, and his smiling, as if they themselves were Krishna. Due to Krishna's absence, they all became crazy. Each one of them told the others that she was Kṛṣṇa himself. Soon, they all assembled together and chanted Krishna's name very loudly as they moved from the part of the forest to another, searching for him. So, as long as Krishna left, they started to imitate him, to feel his presence. Actually, Krishna is all pervasive. He is in the sky, and he is in the forest. He is within the heart, and he is always everywhere. The Gopis therefore began to question the trees and plants about Krishna. There were various types of big trees and small plants in the forest, and the Gopis addressed them. Dear banyan tree, have you seen the son of Maharaj Nanda passing this way, laughing and playing his flute? He has stolen our hearts and gone away. If you have seen him, kindly inform us which way he has gone. Dear Ashoka tree, dear Nagag flower tree and Champaka flower tree, have you seen the young brother of Balaram passing this way? So they are Krishna conscious. They understand the reason he left them. They address Krishna that is present in every aspect, and the forms that remind them of Krishna, they address immediately. This world is giving us so many remindings of Krishna. It's more like a condition. Sometimes Krishna, something really scary, something scary reminds of Krishna, like thunderstorm. And sometimes some tender things remind us of Krishna. Sometimes we see a beautiful thing, we say Krishna. When something is disgusting, we cannot pay our eyes on it. We still say Krishna. And materialist, in the end of his life, he sees his death as Krishna. You cannot bribe it, this death, and this is how they understand God, facing death. So depending on the circumstance, devotee can see Krishna differently. Sometimes we see a person thinking, it's amazing. When we see a dead body of a person and he's examined, it is examined and we think it is amazing. But when we see a living person, we don't think about his body, how it functions. So after he's passing away and we see the body, we don't want to get closer to the corpse. We knew he was alive, and now it's like scary scenery we have. We don't want to even get closer. Sometimes we see it and we're like, oh my God. We cannot see the consciousness inside, but Gopis, they see the champaka trees and the ashoka trees and the banyan trees, and they see Krishna they are in this affection state. They're saying this. It's not some kind of imitation. Banyan, banyan, please tell me where Krishna is. Because they saw Krishna playing the flute. So they asked him, Ashoka, the blooming tree, it smells so good. And these gopis, they're not mad, it's not tamaguna that we address in something like towards our wardrobe or something, like in the Chekhov novel when we were in school. And some guy's been talking to a wardrobe. Chekhov was writing about it. Some twisted ideas.
Гопи знали причину внезапного исчезновения Кришны. Они понимали, что
he was disappeared of our pride, Gopis say. The Gopis were aware of reason for Krishna's sudden disappearance. They could understand that when they had been enjoying Krishna, they thought themselves to be the most fortunate women within the universe, and since they were feeling proud, Krishna disappeared immediately just to curb their pride. Look, it was not even the beginning of rasa dance. They were starting to get ready into it. There's a special feature. There are two types of gopis in this story. Some gopis came already, they were already free. They came from spiritual world. And some gopis, they came, they became gopis after many, many lifetimes. auspicious lifetimes, and they were trying to get Krishna as their husband. They were praying to Durga, and they knew only Krishna can be their husband. They could understand that. They were after Krishna. So in the past, these souls were great sages, and they were gradually coming up, step by step, to get closer to Krishna. Still, there is a description. They felt proud. They felt proud. It was not even the beginning of rasa dance, and Krishna is leaving. And when Krishna leaves, he makes these feelings more vivid. So they are ready to get rid of any sort of feeling of pride. Krishna does not like his devotees to be proud of their service to him. He accepts everyone's service, but he does not like one devotee to proudly consider himself better than others. If sometimes there are such feelings, Krishna ends them by changing his attitude towards the devotee. For example, a devotee might feel that there is no taste for japa or kirtan for some time. It's not a fall. But one day you're in ecstasy, you're rendering the service, but then suddenly, in the blink of an eye, you feel there's no taste, and you become humble. That's how you've been saved by Krishna. Krishna doesn't like this to happen. The Gopis then addressed the Tulasi plants. Dear Tulasi, you are much beloved by Lord Krishna because your leaves are always at his lotus feet. Dear Malati flower, dear Malika flower, dear jasmine flower, all of you must have been touched by Krishna while he was passing this way after giving us transcendental enjoyment. Have you seen Madhava passing this way? O mango trees, O trees of jackfruit, O pear trees and asana trees, O blackberries and bale trees and trees of the Kadamba flower, you are very, very pious trees to be living on the bank of Yamuna. Krishna must have passed through this way. Will you kindly let us know which way he has gone? So there was a trance talking of Gopis. The Gopis then looked upon the ground. They were traversing and began to address the earth. Dear earthly planet, we do not know how many penances and austerities you have overgone to be now living with the footprints of Krishna upon you. You are very, very jolly. You are very jolly. The hairs on your body are these jubilant trees and plants. Lord Krishna must have been very much pleased with you. Otherwise, how could he have embraced you in the form of Varaha, the boar? So they're addressing them because they knew. After addressing the innumerable trees and plants on the earth, they turned their faces toward the beautiful deer, who were looking at them very pleasantly. It appears they addressed the deer that Krishna, who is the Supreme Narayan himself, must have passed through this way along with his companion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Otherwise, how is it possible that the aroma of his garland, which is smeared with the red kunkuma from the breasts of the goddess of fortune, can be perceived in the breeze blowing here. It appears that they must have passed through here and touched your bodies, and thus you are feeling so pleasant and are looking towards us with sympathy. Will you kindly therefore inform us which way Kṛṣṇa has gone? Kṛṣṇa is a well-wisher of Vrindavana. He is as kind to you as to us. Therefore, after leaving us, he must have been present in your company. Gopis see everything, they know everything, because they are Krishna conscious. Just like when we see a devotee, it is easy to have a discussion with him. The ignorance is just karma. It's like an accident. Some of the gopis then addressed their gopi friends. Dear friends, why don't you question these creepers who are so jubilantly embracing the big trees as if the trees were their husbands? It appears that the flowers of the creepers must have been touched by the nails of Kṛṣṇa. Otherwise, how could they feel so jubilant? After searching for Kṛṣṇa here and there, the gopis became fatigued, and then they began to talk like mad women. They could satisfy themselves only by imitating the different pastimes of Kṛṣṇa. So they know everything, but the one thing they don't know is where Kṛṣṇa is. They could satisfy themselves only by imitating different pastimes of Kṛṣṇa. One of them imitated the demon Putana, and one of them imitated Kṛṣṇa and sucked her breast. One gopi imitated a hand-driven cart, and another gopi lay down beneath the cart and threw up her legs, touching the wheels of the cart, as Kṛṣṇa did to kill demon Shakatasura. One gopi imitated child Kṛṣṇa and lay down on the ground, and one gopi became the demon Trinavarta and carried the small child Kṛṣṇa by force into the sky. And one of the gopis began to imitate Kṛṣṇa while he was attempting to walk, ringing his ankle bells. It's very interesting to witness this, to see how one would imitate little Kṛṣṇa with these ankle bells on his feet. Yeah, and everybody is like, wow, it's like you're so good at this imitating. This is the power of devotees. They can show Kṛṣṇa very easily. Two gopis imitated Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, and many others imitated their cowherd boys. One gopi assumed the form of Bakasura, and another forced her to fall down as the demon Bakasura did when he was killed. Similarly, another gopi defeated Vatsasura. Just as Kṛṣṇa used to call his cows by their different names, so the gopis imitated him, calling the cows by their respective names. One of the gopis began to play on the flute, and another praised her for the way Kṛṣṇa's boyfriends praised him while he was playing on his flute. They knew all of it, always meditating on them. One of the gopis took another gopi on her shoulders, just as Kṛṣṇa used to take his boyfriends. Absorbed in thoughts of Kṛṣṇa, the gopi who was carrying her friend began to boast that she was Kṛṣṇa herself. All of you just see my movement. One of the gopis raised her hand with her covering garments and said, "Now don't be afraid of the torrents of rain and severe hurricanes, I will save you." In this way, she imitated the lifting of Govardhan hill. One gopi forcibly put her feet on the head of another gopi and said, "You rascal Kaliya, I shall punish you severely. You must leave this place. I have descended to the earth to punish all kinds of miscreants." So we hear about these magical things, but they saw all this. They know that Krishna can protect you from any danger, and they were very afraid of this separation. This is a spiritual fear. We can also be scared. In this way, all the gopis were madly feeling the absence of Krishna. They inquired about him from the trees and plants. In some places they found the imprints of the marks of the soles of his feet, namely the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, and the thunderbolt, etc. After seeing those footprints, they exclaimed, "Oh, here is the impression of the marks of the soles of Krishna's feet." All the marks such as flag, the lotus flower, the trident, and the thunderbolt are distinctly visible here. They began to follow the footprints, and shortly they saw another set of footprints beside them, and immediately they became very sorry. Dear friends, just see, whose are these other footprints? They are beside the footprints of the son of Maharaj Nanda. It is certainly Krishna passing through, resting his hand on some other gopi, exactly as an elephant goes side by side with his beloved mate. We must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with great affection, love, than ourselves. Because of this, although he has left us, he could not leave her company. He has taken her along with him. Dear friends, just imagine how the dust of this place is transcendentally glorious. But at the same time, we are very sorry that this particular gopi has gone with Krishna, for she is enjoying the nectar of Krishna's kisses and leaving us aside to lament. Our friends, just see, at this particular spot we do not see the footprints of that gopi. It appears that because there were some pinpricks from the dried glass. Look, they see everything. They are like detectors. Krishna took Radharani on his shoulder. Oh, she is so dear to him. Krishna must have picked some flowers in this spot to satisfy Radharani, because here, where he stood erect to get the flower from the high branches of the tree, we find only half of the impression of his feet. Dear friends, just see how Krishna must have sat down here with Radharani and tried to set flowers in her hair. Krishna is so kind that he is always tolerates the disturbance created by his girlfriends. In this way, all the gopis pointed out the faults of the particular gopi who had been taken along by Krishna. They said that this chief gopi, Radharani, must have been very proud of her position, thinking herself the greatest of the gopi. Yet, how could Krishna take her away alone, leaving all of us aside? Unless she is extraordinarily qualified and beautiful, she must have taken Krishna into the deep forest and told him, "My dear Krishna, I am now very tired. I cannot go any further. Please carry me wherever you like." When Krishna was spoken to in this way, he might have told Radharani, "All right, better get on my shoulder. But immediately Krishna must have disappeared, and now Radharani must be lamenting for him. All Gopis then went further and further into the forest searching out Krishna. But when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, they became very sorry. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna has taken Radharani alone, leaving aside all the other gopis, but as soon as they knew that Krishna had also left Radharani and that she was alone lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic for her. The gopis found Radharani and heard everything from her about how she was misbehaved with Krishna and how she was proud and was insulted for her pride. After hearing all this, they became actually very sympathetic. Look how pure this relationship with Krishna are. It's like ideal love, ideal relationship. These things are like spots on the moon. It's not an obstacle, but you have to be very clean to be next to Krishna. You have to be very devoted. When they saw that it was getting gradually darker, they stopped. Their mind and intelligence became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. They all imitated the activities of Krishna and his speeches due to their heart and soul. Being completely given to Krishna, they began to chant his glories, completely forgetting their family interests. In this way, all the gopis returned to the bank of Yamuna and assembled there, and expecting that Krishna must have returned them, simply engaged in chanting the glories of Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 30th chapter of Krishna. Krishna is hiding from the gopis. Next chapter is called Songs by the Gopis. What they were singing about, Gopi Gita. This Gopi Gita absolutely frees us from lust. It is recommended to sing by the preachers and devotees to get protection from temptations when they travel. So we can maybe sing it tomorrow, a few verses. Usually we do it on Kartik, the Gopi Gita, but tomorrow we might do it. Are there any questions today? You were saying that gopis were very afraid to lose Krishna because you can find anything but Krishna. And this fear, what can you tell about this fear? Yeah, the gopis were like afraid. You need to be afraid of offending someone. If there is no a fear of making an offense, that's a big problem. There should be certain fears we should have. We should be fearful of the Lord. There should be fear of making an offense, making an aparat. We have to have fear of losing the society of devotees or disturbing our guru. Mistreating the rules and regulations of our practice. If we get some mercy from the spiritual master and Krishna were afraid of losing it. One more question. You said Krishna was 8 years old? And Gopis, how old were they? They were about the same age. Same age.
Примерно одного возраста. Потому что те старшие гопи, это уже как его старшие сестры.
Because there would be some older Gopis. They would be like his mothers and sisters. But those, they were just the same.
Как бы возраст бестолковых девчонок, знаете.
It's like an age of foolish girls. So back then, 8 years old was differently. Was different. They would 8 years old. They would marry a boy and girl. They would say, "This is your husband. This is your wife." I was so pleased hearing that Gopis were talking to marmalade trees. When you just started to read about the spiritual world, and did you feel happy about learning about these marmalade trees? It's interesting. It's an interesting name, this marmalade tree. But what we do, we imagine ourselves the marmalade, and we think it's like a tree of marmalade, like in a fairy tale. Where the milk river and chocolate banks or something. But in the spiritual world, it's kalpavriksha. Kalpavriksha, all the trees are kalpavriksha. It can make any of your dreams come true, these kalpavrikshas. There's glory is not revealed really. We should not get into it. But it is said that kalpavriksha can make any of your dreams come true. There are some living beings in the material world that are closer to God, closer to Him. Even though being in this contact, they're still not very dedicated, and they understand Dharma differently. And Dharma is not binding them to serve in Krishna. They can fulfill their duties but still be not attached to Krishna in material world. And they're all very powerful also, that we might not understand on our level. Brahma is like that. Vivasvan, he was sneezing and the first emperor of the planet appeared. The son of Vivasvan was Ikshvaku, and he was the first emperor. So Vivasvan was the emperor of the sun, and Ikshvaku was the emperor of earth. And we know this, but there are not so much details of that. In the Bhagavatam it says, Vivasvan just sneezed, and there you go, there's an emperor. It's a problem because we need to explain it to modern scholars, to modern full scholars, that how can understand it, even in the material world. And not talking about Vrindavan or Kalpavriksha or Yamuna, what all of these, we just compare it to just other trees and places. But this is the place where Krishna lives. There are no palaces like in Dwarka. There is just dust and trees and river,
описывается.
and birds are running around in the forest.
Это горстки пыли вы не
But
купите за все
this is very
бриллианты
different.
всех миров.
You won't be able to pay with anything,
И все
any
деревья, листва,
sort of
все
diamond
драгоценных камней из живых.
for it.
И земля там из камней Чинтамани. Там
And
всё
the
таким
land
образом
there is,
обладает такой
is
ценностью,
made of
что нельзя
Chintamani,
даже сравнить с Вайкунтхой, если всю ее собрать.
Chintamani rocks.
Это Вриндаван.
You cannot even compare it to Vaikunta. It's Vrindavan.
Омовение в Ямуне. Да, за одно омовение в Ямуне вы не получите опыт Вайкунтхи.
Bathing in Yamuna,
Тот, который вы на Вайкунтхе вечно можете провести.
you can get the experience that
А что
even
это
spending
означает?
your lifetimes in Vaikunta,
Конечно,
you'd
можно
still
добираться, если по-разному.
wouldn't be able to reach this understanding.
Всё удивительно, а особенно
Everything is
Кришна
amazing.
живой,
Especially,
настоящий
it
Бог.
is amazing that Krishna is a living God, real God.
Он может с вами разговаривать с алтаря.
He can talk to you
Как угодно.
sitting on the
Может
altar.
танцевать на языке, которым мантры повторяете.
He can dance on the tip of your tongue when you chant in japa.
Всё, что вы хотите,
He can show you anything on the
всё, что
kirtan,
хотите знать.
anything you want to know. He is Krishna.
Он не зависит ни от чего.
He is
Вот и всё.
all independent.
А этот тупой ученый говорит, пока не увижу,
And
не поверю.
This stubborn and stupid scientist, he's saying, I will not believe
вроде есть,
till
а
I
мозгов
see
нет.
it. He has the eyes, but there is no
Бывает, вроде
brain.
есть, глаз нет.
Sometimes
Куча проблем здесь.
you have the brains, but you have no eyes.
У нас всего два уха,
We're
знаете,
full
два
of
глаза.
problems. We have only 2 eyes and 2 ears, and we are so proud
Эти
and
глаза
say,
плохо даже
hey, could you
буквы
show me the
читают, слова
God?
понимают с трудом.
We read the letters, but we don't understand the words.
До чего мы докатились.
And we want to see the God. This is insane.
Вот благодаря Ачарье вот вся эта нам
Thanks to
рассеется.
Acharya,
Прабхупада дал нам
all
это.
this mist can go away
Теперь мы можем
because we have the path. Now we can get the mercy of Krishna. This is amazing. We have some questions in the chat.
Нас должен увлечь процесс. Майя, ну
We
да.
should be carried away by the process.
Но почему вы не можете просто терпеливо продолжать следовать практике?
Why can't you
Поднимаете какую-то
just
тревогу. Зачем?
calmly follow the
Это
practice?
лишняя вещь. Мы сами себе создаем препятствия.
We don't need any obstacles to make
Чего тревожиться?
by
Идите,
ourselves.
но если не получается бегом,
Don't be
идите
worried.
как-то пешком.
Just
Пешком не
if you
получается.
cannot run, then
Четвереньки
just
получится. Босиком получится.
walk on your feet towards
Даже на четвереньках не
the
получится.
goal.
Ползком
If you
вот,
cannot
даже
walk,
ползком не получается.
then crawl.
Лень и вот.
If you cannot crawl, then just
Ну тогда хотя бы мысли
lay
должны
there,
быть.
forcing your
Всегда есть
goal,
какая-то возможность.
facing your goal.
Но когда вы поднимаете тревогу, вот эти проблемы,
But when you are
препятствия,
all alarmed and you're
начинаете
saying like,
жаловаться,
I have
что
this
всё
and I
плохо,
have
там,
claims and I
Майя,
have
да,
problems and I'm in Maya, that one in Maya,
Майя такая сильная. Да, Прабхупада. Ну почему такие слабые?
it's a problem. Like
Просто
the
Кришна в сердце.
devotees with Srila Prabhupada, they were saying, oh, Prabhupada, Maya is so strong. And he's like, yeah, it's so strong. But it is inside of your heart.
Сложности какие-то. Но путь-то открыт перед вами. Какие проблемы?
There's an open path in front of you. What's the problem?
Или вы хотите, чтобы вас только на руках несли всю дорогу?
Or you want to be carried
Нет, давайте
all the
всё
time?
двигайтесь.
No. You need to
Язык есть,
move by
2 уха есть,
yourself.
хватит.
You have your tongue, you have your
Повторяйте святые имена.
2 years. So keep on chanting holy names every single day. It's simple.
Если даже не все получается, не
Even
так
though
много джапа, я
you
прекрасно
cannot
трудно,
do
все равно что-то проникает.
everything, you
Всё
still
проникает, лекарство проникает.
you
Пробует
still
прекрасный момент,
can get
сработает.
something. It gets inside of us bit by bit, and one day it will work. Next question. You've already answered it, but still I'm reading it. I'm trying to preach. When I chant Maha Mantra, some
Страх,
fear
да, я помню, как
crawls into
тоже было
my
непросто,
heart.
знаете, для меня выходить
How
на
can I
публику
get rid of it?
с моим комплексом неполноценности.
Yeah, I also have had some
Я вообще не
fears
знаю, как
when
я
I
это делаю,
was preaching,
правда, честно
started
сказать.
to preach. And
Понятия не имею.
frankly speaking, I
Но
don't
я
even know
сам бы никогда
how
бы не пошел на это.
I'm doing this still.
На сцену что-то говорить,
Because
там, перед публикой,
I
там,
would
часами.
never ever
Прям
go
как
there
Иисус.
by myself saying something
вот
because
ради
I
Бога
had
это делал.
so much fear. But
Я добивался этого.
because I was serving
Это
to
было непросто,
devotees,
на самом деле.
because of them, I went there to this. I
Я же
went.
рассказывал, если я
I
сам
would
это
take
не
the
такой
stages
вообще человек.
and preach. I was always very shy. Even in school, my school days, I would
Если меня все-таки водили к доске,
I would
я
never
даже не узнавал
go to the
своих
to the
одноклассников.
blackboard. When I would
Всё, меня
be
блокировалась
asked
речь, мысли,
by
всё.
someone to get there, I'll be all
Я думал,
numb.
ну, вообще
I
как-то.
wouldn't even
Я бы
recognize
сказал,
my
нет, у меня
classmates
похоже, вот есть
facing
проблема.
them.
Догадался кто-то из добрых
And
людей.
one of the teachers
Очень
was
интересно.
very
Сказал, не нужно
smart,
делать.
and
Ну, будем так.
he started
ходить
to
сейчас, так
ask
помогать.
me,
было
whispering
ребенок
questions on my
четыре года.
ear. There were 2 kids like this in the
Ну и как
school.
вы представляете, с таким комплексом неполноценности выйти на сцену?
How
выйти
how do you
осознанно,
imagine
воинствующим.
one who is so shy from naturally
Сейчас люди уже так обои,
getting
склонны подумать.
hitting the stage and preaching there out loud?
А тогда могли вас просто убить на месте.
Back
Ну, во всяком
then,
случае, так проявляли
they
такие
could even
нет.
kill you for
Опасно
preaching
было.
in the 90s. It was
И
very
тут требовалось
dangerous.
что-то такое, знаете,
It
как
was
пойти на смертную казнь вообще.
So you're like
Для меня это
being
очень подобно.
executed every time.
Я был готов, ну,
And
лечь
I
на
was
могилу.
ready to die, literally back then.
Я начал проповедовать в кафе.
I
когда
started to
преданные уехали
preach
в Индию.
in the cafe.
Все старые преданные уехали в Индию, все проповедники.
All the senior devotees,
Остались,
they left, they took off to
продолжали
India
работать, просад готовить.
for some parikram, and we kept on doing the service in the cafe. And people were coming in the evenings, they were asking for some program to be ran. So one of the devotees who could do something, he came to me and she said, you know, we need to run this program, and my child is sick, and also I cannot really preach because I don't know philosophy very well, but you know the philosophy and you have to go there, and you need to run this. And she was like, are you arguing me? You have to go, just go there. The people are waiting, and I'm like, I went to the toilet, and I was praying in the toilet. It was my bhajan kutir, asking Krishna, please, Krishna, do something. And then I would feel that my feet would go that direction. So I was literally pulled by someone. I was paralyzed and I was moved towards the place where I should have started speaking. So I couldn't understand what I was doing. I would hear my voice, I would hear the kirtan, I would hear people singing and chanting, and I knew that something's going on, but it was all unconscious. These are the emotions I had, serious emotions, and it took me years and years and years to learn how to get there and stand in front of the people. And actually by the end of the program, these feelings would go away and all the people would be so dear and close to me. It's like a second breath. And I would start to say things I didn't understand before. It was more like a mystical process. I knew it was not me. I started to trust more and more to the process, and this is the way I got into the preaching. I still sometimes get that state of mind that fear comes, and I know that it's just an illusion. So I'm more like a witness to it. I'm not the body. And now there is no fight for me to get on stage and to start talking. I know that there is Guru, there is Prabhupada. I should be fearless. But in the beginning, when there is a guna karma, it is very hard. It is all devotees there like this. They have this kind of experience. Don't be afraid. In the Krishna consciousness, don't be afraid of anything. I understand that the main problem is the way we address Krishna, and no guna karma matters. Well, there is value because it is, if it is connected to Krishna, even in Mishra Bhakti, no pure devotional service, we still think something about ourselves. It's still not very valuable, but still there is some kind of a price in it, and Krishna is accepting our service. He is merciful. Even Putana was accepted and embraced by him, and she was trying to kill him. So the devotee, even if he's not pure enough and he thinks more about his career, but he's still rendering the service, and Krishna accepting it. Among the devotees, there is a rule not to discuss the fourth principle, and because it makes problems. Guru Maharaj, should we talk about these fourth principles? This sexual energy, how can we elevate this sexual energy? Yeah, you can talk about it. It's not a cure, of course. It's more like scientific reasons that illegal sex is bad for you, or overwhelming sexual activity is bad for you. And you will have material problems and spiritual problems as well. We can give these scientific reasons, but we have to say that this should be elevated to a platform of celibacy between a husband and wife, and we need to talk about this. Like, if we have celibate, then we need to discuss how we live with this, what is our lifestyle, what we do. We have so much activities, but if we don't speak on Krishna or how can you deal with lust, then you will not be able to do anything, because lust, you cannot hide it or put it away, put it aside. You will be pressed by it. So it should be sublimated. It should be elevated from lowest chakras to the highest. You take that energy. That way you'll be able to follow this fourth regulative principle. This fourth principle is the main criteria, that the devotee of Vishnu, he is not into this sexual affection. This is the devotee of Vishnu, not the devotee of Brahma or Shiva, not the devotee of Brahman. they cannot overcome this. It's more or less artificial practice that they do. Only the devotee of Vishnu is free from lust. And this is the criteria for us to understand what is my level. If I am into this, this is the scale of devotion in me. Yamunacharya was saying that a devotee, he feels disgusted with things like this. This is the criteria of purity. If I still have the taste for it, then I still have some problems and things to clean in me. So we are not trying to oppress our feelings, we try to develop our Krishna consciousness. So maybe there is no need to talk about this lust for hours and hours, and we need to talk about Krishna instead. When we talk about sex and we even mention this word, we already feel lust. Even if we say against it, we still have impressions made by this word. So it's better to speak on Krishna, and that way we are elevated. So there is no need talking about it for a long time. No need to talk about snakes, women, and ghosts. The moment we talk about women, they start to approach us in conversations and stuff. They see the tendency. The snakes is just the same. And the ghosts, if they're mentioned, they come closer. So the lust is one of those topics. It's better to talk on the topics that take us away from it. Sometimes, of course, we need some scientific reasons for a certain audience. It's a natural thing for getting your children and stuff, but it also brings a problem. Sometimes we'll give the time on our lectures to explain how it works and how the body of the female and male body works and how the children come, but it's just a certain time. And the cure is Krishna. That's why we are reading this. We're reading from this Krishna book. And the last question would be? Gopīs, do Gopīs know that they've been some sage in the past? They don't really need to remember this, because all the fruits of one's pious activities with him. Would I feel better knowing that I was a king in the past life? It does not require it. We don't really need it. It is important to remember ourself, our eternal self. That's what important. But we've been in the past, we've been all sorts of, you name it, we've been it. But if we are questioning about absolute truth, then we are getting closer to this elevated state, and it means we've been through so many stages, not only the king, we've been even the insect, and once we've been a demigod, and we have passed through hell even. It is all possible. So thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.